entitled "Nonprofit Goes from $10 Million a Year to Zero Due to Arrogance and Greed." So I volunteered with a nonprofit service club for almost 2 decades. We had a fundraiser, legally licensed gambling in our country, that would gross $1.50 mil per year. There were only a dozen members, so we didn't do much except hang out, volunteer for other charities, and redonate the money with a big presentation check. In 2019, we fired one of the 2 employees for our fundraiser. I agreed to work for 3 months as a contractor at $25 per hour until they found a replacement. I found ways to improve the fundraiser and turned $1.50 mil in annual sales into $8 mil after only 9 months. Then COVID hit, and I revamped everything again to get us $15 mil annual sales, $10 mil net profit. In 6 months, I was working my ass off, putting in 5 6-hour weeks sometimes. The club was pressuring me to submit an invoice, as I hadn't been paid the entire time. I wasn't motivated to charge anything since my original intent was to work for free for 3 months, but finally submitted a discounted invoice for $52,000 for the past 15 months after we all agreed I'd been working too long and they dropped the ball in their intention to hire a replacement. They paid, but freaked out on me and accused me of greed, fraud, incompetence, etc. A combination of their behavior and them being greedy, pushing for massive donations that would get them ahead in their professions, spending money on fancy gala dinners and golf tournaments with the rich elite of the community, etc. And I was frustrated and pissed beyond belief. I stuck around, and sometimes got guilted by members into staying after multiple attempts to quit, for another year out of loyalty to my staff, almost 2 dozen at that point, and the charities I was involved with for decades. But I finally broke and walked away at the end of 2021. Here's where the malicious compliance comes in. Before leaving, I was implementing a 2-part plan for another revamp of the fundraiser to keep up with the huge sales and prizes. Each part had benefits and consequences individually, so they had to be implemented together to balance each other out. The first part took a long time to plan before I left, and once it was ready, it was easy to put the second part in action right away. I reported what I was doing to the club, and they accused me of being incompetent once again for not understanding the consequences of the second part of the plan. They didn't understand the big picture, but I was tired of arguing with them. I implemented the first part as they had approved because everything was already changed over and impossible to revert back. I didn't try to convince them at all about the second part being necessary, and left them to deal with the consequences after quitting. A year later, they are accusing me of sabotaging them, and not explaining the need for the second part. The fundraiser has fallen apart this past year with less than $2 mil in sales, but still with massive expenses, as well as a half-assed revamped system bleeding money. They've reportedly lost money this year, and have no idea what went wrong. I deleted all my documents and plans when I returned the work laptop to them, also as malicious compliance, because they asked for it in original condition and ready for someone new to use. Nothing pisses me off more than management guiding from the captain's lodging when the rowers say there's rough water to handle first. My own boss did this. Told them 3 or 4x that if def happen, ABC can't happen. They accused you of fraud and you stuck around? I get loyalty, but you never should have stayed as long as you did. The sad truth about building something sophisticated and profitable is it will almost always have a setback, because the world is of no shortage of overconfident morons who think their minor role is the whole thing. Good on you, Op. A local charity in town that had a very strong strategic mission and devoted employees lost 5 of its most senior and highest paid employees due to idiotic new management. They were all up for raises, but new management basically insinuated there was no funds. Even though multiple friends of the management were hired into six-figure, new, roles. All five basically said F this and moved on to greener pastures. Two of which actually brought in enough money through grants and charitable donations that their positions actually were a net gain to the charity. One became CEO of a similar charity and brought all his contacts with him while simultaneously turning his charity from deep in the red to flush with cash. One of the other two works with me now and makes $10K more a year for less hours, and within 3 years will be making $25K more a year with far less BS. The charity losing him basically list itself someone that was its handyman, program developer, and overall problem solver. The final loss to said charity was the behind-the-scenes glue holding it all together, and now works for my department on another site. All 5 employees were also great when it came to employee recruitment, development, training, and retention. Said charity has now gone through more employees in the last 3 years than it did in the prior 15. The 5 that left had a combined 90+ years of institutional knowledge. The longest tenured employee currently has 3. You got them $15 million and they balked at $52,000? WTF? This seems unreal. You 10x their gross profit in 15 months and are only paid $52K. I just don't understand how these idiots could be so blinded. Getting paid $52K for a year of labor for turning $1.5 million in proceeds into $8 million sounds like they got a good deal there. You should really just start your own foundation. Are you retired? I would never work 60 hours work with no compensation. The classic example of a professional becoming too big for his managers. Good managers will know when they have someone whose plans are bigger than their own, and give them the freedom to make success. Bad managers will not. Sounds like a viable business model, all ready to go with another service club? What fundraiser are you running to generate that kind of money? Welp, all's well that ends well, I like to say. How does a nonprofit actually pull in that much profit though? Wouldn't that make it for profit? This is why I don't donate to charity. Don't trust any of them to use the money charitably. Should have got paid a small stipend for your efforts. Just as other successful fundraisers do. They get 5%. Chef's kiss. Maybe already been said, but you may be facing a lawsuit. You purposely deleted files that belong to the company. You destroyed company property, extremely valuable property. That's not also malicious compliance. That's a childish temper tantrum. 2 sides to every story. Something doesn't compute here. Australia? Some people never read The Golden Goose as children, and it shows.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Arrogance is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.